everyone. Welcome to another exciting day of FileMaker awesomeness, where we're teaching you use of awesome FileMaker platform, where we're helping you build great FileMaker applications. Not doing it for you, but showing you how to make great applications, because your customers need you to make great. And so today we're trying to we're talking about apps that don't suck. So today is like inside the sausage factory. This is one of the videos that I give to my team. It's a video that was done by a guy named Mike Lee, like 8 years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. He was at the beginning of the iPhone revolution, and he was building apps, and he got bought out by Apple, worked for Apple for a period of time. I really like this guy's philosophy of life, a lot of it. He seems like a really nice guy. I've never met him. It's one of those, like, role model kind of people. Not so much role model, but definitely a person who strategy in building software and the way he looks at building software is awesome. So we're going to kind of cover some upcoming topics. We're going to cover some news today. And then we're going to be, of course, covering this topic, and I'm going to give you this video that you can watch, right? And you can keep it for yourself. So the title of it is Making Apps That Don't Suck by Mike Lee. Normally, we would just send you to the website where you could watch this on the website. The problem is that my pocket's on fire. There we go. The problem is that the website is broke, and so we had to make sure that to preserve the content, right? A lot of times you go on the internet and people always assume the internet will always be there, and the answer is one, the internet won't always be there, and if you really prize certain content, you might want to kind of capture it. So we found another link on YouTube where you can go and watch this video. We will post that link for you. But the short version is that marketing and sales, when you get with an organization, the logical thought, and I see this every day. And it's about making, being successful in business. But basically, the idea is that instead of assuming that, I'm a great person, FileMaker's a great platform, we have a great team, we have a great app, how come we're not rich? That's literally like the formula that people ask themselves, right? Because obviously we have a great app. We have a great app, we have a great team, the customers love the app, therefore why aren't we rich? And it's the wrong logical mindset a lot of times, right? What you have to do is rethink your strategy, and the strategy is one where you might want to consider maybe you just assume your app sucks, right? And what you do is you look at it from that vantage point. You have an app that sucks, and what you're striving to do is make your app suck less, right? And so what you do is you find those spots where it was not great, and what we call sharp edges or friction points, that's a terminology you hear people use, that if you're making a beautiful piece of software, where are the spots where people snag themselves and cut themselves on your software, or there's friction in there like sandpaper, and you really don't want to get into that too much. You want to sand that off and make it a nice process. So you want to identify the parts that suck and to remediate the suckage, right? So Nathan wrote that down. I'm going to repeat that. Remediate the suckage basically comes from this video. This is a video I watch this video once or twice a year. It helps frame the conversation, right? So as I'm doing the training video, so that you watch, of course I don't seem to have it right here. Where'd the training video go? I don't seem to have it. 19 training tool. Oh, the FileMaker 19 training tool is about done. So yeah, so what we have to do is like when we're doing the video, or that video player you folks see, and you have version 19 and 20 and 22, 25, I assume it always sucks, and then I endeavor to make it suck less. Every release, we improve it, make it a little bit better, and then your feedback helps us identify where the friction points are, and that's a very important concept. So, but I want to empower you. So, what I'm giving to you today is some of the tools that I give my team, and it's kind of why, Richard? Why are you the way you are? Why are you the way you are? I don't know if that's the right way of saying that, but this is the video right here. And so what this is this was done at a conference a while back, and there's this guy named Mike Lee who is a fantastic guy, and basically he goes through this whole process. He's a very entertaining speaker. He makes me look pretty boring, which is saying something. And so he's dressed up as a pirate today, but basically he created a company, and he built a very early game on the iPhone, and then of course if you're always kind of a trendsetter, then they buy you out, and then somehow he's like a successful person, and he's coming back and talking to people about how to make apps that are great and really trying to educate people. The last time I checked up on him, there's a really high tech area where they're really promoting a lot of high tech in Europe. And I think he's fundamentally a North American kind of guy, but was in Europe, in Netherlands or Denmark or someplace where they had this high-tech center area, and he was doing education there. And I was looking to see what had happened with this guy. And so he's not FileMaker specific, but the lessons to learn is that FileMaker is just a platform we use, but fundamental decisions that we make don't have anything to do with FileMaker. Making sure that the app performs well. Yeah, there might be some technical FileMaker things that make that better or worse, but at the end of the day, you have to recognize that you have an app that has some suckage to it, right? Claris, I will talk about Claris briefly here as an example, and it's a compliment to them. I didn't give them this pitch, right? But I gave them feedback along the way about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. They were working on their version Cloud 2. Cloud 2 is actually a pretty good product. I saw it when it was in like alpha, beta, and they were trying to pitch it as the final version. It sucked bad. We sent 2 of my non-technical people at RCC. I went through a review on it, and I said, you guys are high as kites. I said, this thing sucks. The problem is that it had, to sign up to do the cloud, it was like 12 screens with all sorts of questions that a normal human wouldn't give a darn about, right? And it would ask, it was like 12 screens to get through this process, and then a credit card and this whole thing. I told them at the end of the day, it really needed to be my name, my email, a credit card would be maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, but whatever. But like, I need my name, my email, and here's my database file, and put it on a server for me, and I'm done. That's the entire sign-up process, right? That's making a cloud sign-up service that doesn't suck. So they ran my wife through it, and she had a coronary, came out, was like freaking out. It's like, oh, she goes, if this is the product, we're all going out of business. And I said, yeah, no, they'll get a clue. And so they recorded their feedback. Another lady who was working for me at the time did the feedback. They had compared notes. They both had fits. And so what Claris did, they took a huge compliment to them. They really, really listened. And they basically came back and said, oh, yeah. They took the process, they saw the feedback, and it turned it from 12 screens into like 5. Now, it's not as simple as first name, last name, email. Here's my FileMaker FMP12 file. Let's host it. Slightly more complex than that, but not terribly so. It's not grossly unreasonable, right? And they simplified the conversation. It was much better. So that is an example of an organization that identifies the suckage. And the engineers, the problem was it was a fishbowl problem at Claris, because they've been selling and setting up FileMaker for so many years, like decades, that every time you buy a product, they go like, well, what tier of licensing would you like? And my wife goes, what the hell? What tier? What? Just sell me the damn product. I don't. Well, you're tier 1 or tier 2, or what's your volume license? Blah, blah, blah. And they start asking these questions, and then and in Claris, if you could. That's why they brought people in. They were able to step back and go, oh, those are things that the end person doesn't know about, don't care about. So we need to assume certain basic things, which were all safe assumptions. But they're questions they would always ask you, like, well, how many copies have you bought before? And will you be adding more license? It's like, whoa, we don't need that for signing up for a trial, for a demo of this. And we don't need that. It has to be simple. So one of the things I want to do before we dive, we're already diving into this, but I do want to hit I'm going to give you the link for this, and Miles is going to confirm or check with me that the link is working. They're processing it. We wanted to make sure it all got processed. Yeah, the video is still processing. It might take most of an hour, but it's about an hour video. You can see right here, it's an hour and 12 minutes. And I can send you the original site that they have it. It's currently, the link on it that plays it is broke, right? So like everything else, if you have a fancy technology thing, you'll run into a spot where your website breaks, and if you don't have an incentivized to fix it, then you don't fix it, and you lose access to this. This training, I consider, is critical. If you build applications and you want your applications to be successful, you really need to think about this. The problem is, and this guy, he does the presentation so well, I can't begin to do justice to this guy. I would love to buy this guy dinner and just pick his brain sometime. So I think today's topic about making apps that don't suck, assuming that your application has issues, it's really kind of a major brain thing for you to think about. It's a major idea that it's not great. Assume assume there's something wrong with it, and then endeavor, and the word is endeavor, he used the word endeavor, to find those items and to, I would use the word remediate or to fix or address them, right? Once again, that is applicable to everyone, including people who don't even code, managers who don't code, CEOs that don't code, or, but they're somehow in charge of a technical company. And it's not just for software, right? Like I could take my Honda car. My wife has a fairly new SUV, like 2 or 3 years old. It's got an interface. The interface on this Honda Pilot is horrifically bad. I mean, like, I could do, if I put Nick Hunter in the car, he'd crash the car. It sucks that bad. The only part that you really understand, steering wheel and the gas and brake pedals, right, on the left side of the car, for those of you in the UK or other places. But the interface on this thing is truly epically bad. And you could see that they made that determination because they got rid of that interface. Really, really horrible. And as you're driving the car, instead of it being kind of like very peripheral interface as you're looking out here, you're forced to look down in the cockpit. And then, of course, your car, you drive into something, right? So not good. All right, great. So that is there. It's actually, I watch about half the video, and then my brain is cartwheeling so much from all the ideas I have to stop. It happens to me a lot. I start hearing people with ideas, and I start in my head. I quit listening to what they're saying, and I'm trying to. That happens at DevCon a lot too. It's one reason to hang out with us at Discord, because Claris will say something, and then they'll say something so radically different, your brain is cartwheeling to figure out what the hell they meant, and you don't hear the next 2 sentences. That happens to me a lot, because I'm not the brightest guy on the planet. I have to like sit there and like, so they just said this. Does this mean this or this? And instead of me listening to it, it's like I need to go to DevCon and hit play and then pause and then play and then pause so my brain can catch up with it. So that'll be the fun of bringing everyone together, and we can bounce ideas off each other. I think that'll be very exciting. Cool. So let's see. Questions? No one's bored. It's very interesting. Good. Well, in May, okay, so these are ideas for video courses. So can I once again suggest, if you have a topic you want us to cover, besides bothering Nick Orr at Base Elements at Goya, recommend that you do that for me. So we get them to show up, right? Poke them with a cattle prod. Topics that you'd like to see covered. So Figure Disfondo from Italy says, if I may suggest, an amazing course would be how to write a user manual. Okay. Right. So it's a great question. I'm not laughing at you. It's just like, and we'll cover that in 3 minutes. Right. Boy, I tell you, that's a huge, I mean, people can see my head spinning. I sometimes writing a manual is important. I think there's, in my mind, there's 2 levels of documentation. Customers sometimes will ask, like we had someone the other day, maybe it was you, emailed us and said, hey, how do we quickly write documentation because a customer wants a manual for an app I already built. There's really 2 levels of documentation, to me. Once again, I'm not very bright, so you can take this for what it's worth. I think there's developer level documentation for the person who comes behind you to work on the solution. So that's inline comments, building things. Like if we go, for example, let's talk about developer level documentation. And I probably, that's not what this Figure Disfondo is talking. He's probably talking about an end user instruction manual. Here's starting point 20. This is 2001, although I don't know it's really 2001, but it says it's 2001. So I'm going to put that down here for the moment. So if I go to field definition, I go to relationships. We have organized things and put comments up here and some documentation up here, right? You see that? And so part of this organization leads to understanding. It's not necessarily a manual per se, but you can tell that there is this structure, whether you understand that this is anchor buoy or not. You can tell that there is a structure here, and there is some sort of strategy to it. And so you like, okay. And then if you go to script workspace, right, and you look at, for example, the startup scripts, we were going through those the other day for performance, for a performance review. That was part of our enterprise conversation where we're trying to tune it for the enterprise. If I zoom in over here for everyone, so we have kind of a thought here. You can see where you could tell where I've been writing the comments. I tend to put the dots here, and I have fairly creative language, right? And so you'll see like, holy cow. In fact, it was funny because I'm not the only one who does this. I saw the guys who were writing the code for StarCraft, and they wrote in the code, if you change this, you will effing die, right? And so they had to fuzz that out on TV, but I thought it was really funny. So, but it gets the point across, right? So check this, that there's this going on. Check this is going on. You need to write the comments. Now, you can see when I have it, this is when I write stuff. If another engineer writes it, it might look a little different. It's still commented. I just like to see it like this. Color-wise, see, it looks very suspiciously like this. I like my notes to be like visually like, man, that's a note. This right here, this code, this code, this code, that one's got a little purple in it, looks suspiciously like this code right here. And so if you're just, if you just take, I'm going to zoom back just a smidge. Where's my smiley face at? Where'd I go? I'm over here. All right. So if I back up, you can't see me. I'm going to back up, and I'm looking at the screen from like 3 feet away, right, or 4 feet away, or 5 feet away. I can't tell what's a comment easily and what's code. And so you might want to think about that, right? Something to think about. Obviously, I am using the, I do have the Monkey Bread plugin installed. I can come in here. It will tend to code things for me, but you can come in here and enlarge it. That's such a great feature right there, enlarging the code like that for us old guys. I still have pretty good vision, but I have to, like, it's 2012. But like, which is like better, but it has to be corrected to that level. Without my glasses, I'm fumbling around. So I like to zoom in. The line numbers get screwed up. I don't think that's anything that can be fixed. This figure just font. I said, my bad. I didn't express. I was thinking of a user manual, including procedures, icon definitions, functions, procedures, writing a manual for solutions. Due to it's a law. Okay, well, it's a law in Italy. It's not a law here in the United States. That's an interesting law. I would love to see the tech extract of that law. So if you write software in Italy, you are legally required to deliver an instruction manual. That is, I just learned something new. Anyone else know about that? Okay, so we're going to pivot back to the conversation about there's only 10 kinds of, okay, well, TK, you could put that in there. Figure desfondo. So he says that it's not the documentation. Yeah, this is what I will take you out of context when you type incomplete sentences, folks. So our gentleman from Italy, I'm assuming it's a guy, Figure desfondo, says he's doing medical software, and so because the medical software is required to document it, I get that. With in the United States, I don't know that documentation so much is required, but they have like disaster recovery, things like that. So I think you'd have to have documentation just to comply with the federal guidelines on it. But not so much like how to code it per se. Documentation, how to write documentation. Listen, I don't have a great, I'm not a, because people would rather watch video training on how to build starting point. Like if I need to go into, where's the stupid video player at? I need to find my video player. I don't even know where it's at. Let's see. So here's the training right here. We go into here, right? And in this, of course, I don't have the subscription going right now. But you come into here, into this section right here, and actually in the 200 section, this is video training on starting point on this CRM over here, right? Now, it's not like every bolt and nut and screw. It's mostly the documentation we've done in video is like a walkthrough of how to do this and a walkthrough of how to do that. And then it gets into calendar a little bit, but mostly my training is technical based, so to try to teach you how to take FM starting point apart to make it work for you, right? So we do mostly video documentation. We don't do too much written documentation, largely because the customers don't want to pay for it. They realize that they generally don't want to pay for it. If you have a vertical market solution that you charge money for, you generally need some sort of training. If you could deliver the training in video, people tend to prefer that. That's why YouTube is so damn popular. Although, once again, if you're doing a lot of training, all our videos here are being delivered via Vimeo. I recommend for business applications staying the hell away from YouTube and using Vimeo, because you can control the messaging, you control the branding. And for example, the productive computing guys are running commercials on YouTube, buy this, buy that, buy our training, whatever, which is fine. But I have specifically turned off the monetization and commercials on my videos to prevent other companies' ads from showing up, right? Because if you're watching my video, I don't want you watching a competitor's video per se, right? Makes sense. With Vimeo, it's much easier to control that, much easier. So I highly recommend that if you're going to do training, if you can get away with doing video, that's better. People will be much more engaged or likely to do that. Yeah, see, that's the problem. People do written documentation, and the attention, people really expect to be partially entertained. I mean, that's why, I can't try not to make boring videos, right? And I'm kind of like this personality. Nick's the same way. He's a very interesting. Put us together, it's like dynamite, right? Nitro and glycerin, right? So, but unless you have technical specifications, you need what Nick said. Technical documentation stinks, right? So that's why we do it in video if possible, and then you have inline documentation in starting point, which I think is really useful, right? Really, really useful. But it's like our book. There used to be. Okay, so let me just help with all this, right? How many new books are there for the FileMaker platform for FileMaker 17? My book. How many books were for 18? 0. Why? Because even I didn't want to put a book together for 18 because there was not much changed. So how many books will be for 19? My book, right? Why? Because I have a manuscript and I think it's valuable. But I met one of the ladies, her name was Maria Langer, and she used to do the books for dummies. And she even did a book for dummy on FileMaker, but she doesn't know anything about FileMaker, so I think she would write the books, she would help write them, but someone else would give her the technical content or something. I don't know what kind of arrangement she had, but she made a ton of money doing the yellow books for dummies, right? The missing Bible, or the FileMaker for Dummies books, right? And then that business went boom. And so she basically, her writing gig just exploded and melted. Now she's kind of in retirement mode, kind of works part-time, but retirement mode mostly. She has a blog. It was interesting because I was reading about some other stuff she was doing, and she said, I was writing all these books, and I made a ton of money. She's like making money hand over fist. But that's like being in the newspaper business. Talk about businesses that have been disrupted by technology. Print companies. Photocopier companies that make photocopies of stuff. I mean, we still have printers and stuff, but how often do you output a PDF versus a printer, right? And it's just... So the news organizations had to change. It wasn't about printing and copy. Anyone who was doing video, who was always strong on that, but the print business has just died. Once again, the book training business has died, and written manuals have died, right? Claris, I mean, if you go to, let's just cover this real quick. This is really interesting. So let's cover the Claris documentation for FileMaker. There is no written book manual for FileMaker. You want to see where the manual is? It's right here. FileMaker Pro Help. This is it, pretty much for the most part. This is their main documentation right here. It's pretty expansive. It covers a lot, and there's some other random topics. If you go once again to our Discord page, you go to resources right here. You can scroll up where I put a bunch of resources up here. And so you can go to Claris's. This is their support department. This is their documentation. And it's like, all these are different books here. And they're like, oh, they're PDFs and manuals, right? And you click on one. Like how to set up Server 19 with Web Publishing Guide. You open it up. Actually, this one's actually a PDF. A lot of them are not PDFs. In fact, the lady who was working on this, I can't remember her name, Lana or Cara. She was a FileMaker Claris employee. She was here a couple weeks ago watching our broadcast. It was July 3rd. She had a day off, and she was here kind of watching. She wrote some of these books. But if you go like to the WebDirect book, wherever the WebDirect book is at, Server 19, Set Up and Installation. Is this a book? Okay, this is a classic. So this is like more of a wiki, right? So if you look at this page, it's not very PDF-y, right? You could turn it into a PDF, but it's like this like wiki that you read, right? It's this big long wiki, and sometimes there's images and stuff in here. But that's their documentation. Here it goes. I'm still scrolling. So Claris is in terms of a book, there is no book. It's either the help or these wiki things like this. So that's pretty much it. All right, questions. Kyle, I have handled scripting medical bill insurance. I had to write a script to generate a 90G project. Yeah, they're talking about. Okay, so Michael Gravel. I'm trying not to start a fight here with Nick. I know what Nick said. I was trying not to repeat what Nick said, right? So Michael's over here. He's trying to like light a fire in the office, right? So here I am behind me having a nice conversation. Behind me I have fire burning, right? People getting pissed off with each other, right? So very flippantly, Nick would say that and Apple would tell you this too, if you need a manual for your software sucks. Because your software should be so awesomely intuitive, then so transparent as to how it operates. That's so amazing that you could just instantly understand what it does and do it, right? And I didn't want to repeat that to figure desfondo, saying that since you need a manual, you must suck, right? Because that's the corollary of this, right? the flip of the conversation. So. So Kyle, yes, and Michael, yes. The idea is that you don't need documentation. Claris, if FileMaker was so obviously intuitive, you wouldn't need documentation. But the reality is, like if you go to Xcode, stuff like that, where you're actually building applications, there's tons of documentation for Xcode, right? Xcode is Apple's kind of very gnarly equivalent of FileMaker. FileMaker is a platform. Xcode is a development platform in there with Swift and other things like that. But the point is, you go in there, you get this FileMaker kind of app. I'm being very loose on my description here. Do not barbecue me over this. But FileMaker, the layout mode and the scripting mode and the workspace and the way you have the palettes and everything, that mimics Xcode. And so there is documentation for Xcode. There's books of it because people have to document all these features and things, all the get functions, things like that. So anyway, but the idea is that if you have a simple application that doesn't need a lot of documentation, that's better. Software evolution has a pace that's too fast for written documentation. Right, yeah. So that's part of our problem with the book. We skipped 18. We're doing the 19 book. And I went to Claris and said, hey, you guys want to give me some feedback on it? And they basically said, yeah, we don't have anything to tell you. I was talking to head guy down there, and I said, hey, so, what's your strategy with this? I mean, you guys talked about FileMaker 23 or 24 or whatever you're going to do. And I call it 23, 24, but whatever would come out in 2 or 3, 4 years. And we already did 19, so what's in between? Yeah, they didn't want to tell me. So we have to put a bunch of unknown stuff in the book in terms of like the strategy of the company. I'm not totally clear on what it is. I asked them, and it's like, right? So anyway, but the point is that that's why Maria Langer was having such a hard time with the book for dummies, right? The yellow book for dummies stuff. She was one of the writers for that series, made a ton of money. And because that business is, people just don't go to Barnes and Noble and buy books anymore. People buy books now because they are book people, and they cherish and relish the feeling of the paper and the book and all that. I like physical books so I can mark them up. That's why in our training book that's coming up, it's an 18.5 by 11, 8.5 by 11 book. But we write in these sections in these huge white areas so you can mark it up. The goal is for you to make notes on it, right? Some people like that. I think it's useful to have the book, and that's what we're actively working on that. So that is, you can watch this video. I highly recommend that you watch it. It's super educational, and I've kind of like teed it up for the guy, but Mike Lee. And like I said, it's an older conversation. I'm not aware of any of it that's out of date. Not a single thing. Because user interface, listen, back in the Stone Ages with caveman, I'm Thor, I'm a caveman. I'm Thor, caveman. I have a wheel. All right, so the user interface for your hay wagon that you might be pushing or the horse might be pulling, there's a user interface for it, all right, the wheel. It's like the Far Side comics. The first wheels were square, chunk, chunk, chunk. Oh, that wheel, user interface on that wheel sucks, right? So let's reimagine the wheel. Oh, it's going to be round. Okay, great. That's the first user interface. This stuff doesn't change, right? I mean, the tech changes, right? The tech is faster, more internet-y, whatever, but wherever someone uses your software and there's a sharp edge to the software, it's like, damn, I cut my finger the other day. Yesterday, I was trying to chop something up. I got a little boo-boo on my finger, and it was a sharp edge, right? So, I mean, that sucks, right? So, do you want your customers to cut their fingers on your software? Find those spots and sand them down, make them better. All right, so tomorrow is about Claris's engineering blog. We'll have another video for you, a homework assignment for you to watch if you want to get better at this. The assignment that you're getting today is the same video I give to my engineers, and I watch this video about twice a year to kind of remind you the fundamentals, because you learn new FileMaker, learn new things, get better at what you're doing, but you have to remember the fundamentals and go back to understanding that just because it makes sense to you doesn't think it makes sense to anyone else, right? I have another article I'll throw in on that tomorrow, but it's called Cognitive Overhead. It's where you think your apps are it makes sense to you, therefore it must be brilliant, right? And then you have people who are like, why is our program not sell? Well, because there's friction in there. And if you're incapable of finding the friction, then you will go out of business. Your application will not sell. So, and even if you get the friction perfect, you can still go out of business because of marketplace, right? Like if you're trying to like I have one engineer who might be listening. He would love to have like I don't want to say a piano bar, but like a coffee shop, like Starbucks with live music and this sort of thing. And he's worked in those before. He would love to open one. Trying to open a restaurant right now in the middle of the COVID thing, not a good business strategy. I feel sorry for him, right? I mean, it's not something he was doing today, but from a strategic standpoint, that's a business that's in trouble for the moment, right? Maybe in 5 years it'll be much better shape. So anyway, so once again, if you have thoughts or ideas about video sessions you'd like to see, live streams, send us an email to support@rcconsulting.com and just say, attention Richard, or hey, this would be a great live stream, whatever. I'm not going to laugh at any ideas because even if I have something I think is a bad idea and I have 3 or 4 of you ask for the same bad idea, then it really causes me to wonder why you're asking that and how do I address it. And so if you're afraid I make fun of you, I only make fun of Ken and his hot air balloon. Okay? That's the only guy I make fun of. TK, no, he's a stormtrooper. I'm scared to death of him. All right, everyone, catch you tomorrow. Thanks.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.